I'm Claire, and I've had type 1 diabetes for 10 years. I'm really excited to talk today.
Friends, we're all back together for the next episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Welcome. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. All right, let's get down to it. You want the management stuff from the podcast. You don't care about all this chitting and chatting with other people. Juiceboxpodcast.com/lists. They are downloadable, easy to read. Every series, every episode, they're all numbered. Makes it super simple for you to go right into that search feature in your audio app, type Juicebox 1795 to find episode 1795. Juiceboxpodcast.com/lists. I'm having an on-body vibe alert. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Eversense 365, the only 1-year wear CGM. That's one insertion and one CGM a year. One CGM, 1 year. Not every 10 or 14 days. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your supplies the same way we do from US Med. Today's episode is sponsored by the Tandem Mobi system with Control-IQ Plus technology. If you are looking for the only system with auto bolus, multiple wear options, and full control from your personal iPhone, you're looking for Tandem's newest pump and algorithm. Use my link to support the podcast, tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox. Check it out.
I'd say the first trimester, I kind of knew I was pregnant before I took the test, just based on my CGM. I was like, little insulin resistant today. So that was kind of cool. So I immediately I changed my settings and just kind of increased my basal a little bit to compensate for that. Reached out to my endo. And I was seeing her the next week anyway, so it's perfect. So went in, made some adjustments, and she basically just kind of cranked everything up a little bit to help with the little bit of increased resistance I was having, and to make sure I'm hitting those tighter goals. And then we were keeping it a secret at first, which everybody's probably going to do it a little differently. We kept it a little secret at first. We wanted to get all that blood work back. We wanted to try and tell our family in person. It was still very much COVID times. So we were able to tell our family on Mother's Day. And I think I was about 10 weeks pregnant at that time. And then I just was trying to be very cautious with what I was eating, count my carbs, know what I was eating, all of that stuff, using all the tips and tricks I had, previously read about and researched and experimented with. Yeah. But the first trimester wasn't too crazy. But then in that second trimester, it was probably around like 18 weeks, give or take. It was like Jenny says, that roller coaster cranking up. But I had a great team. I had my OB, my high-risk doctor, and my endo. And the three of them are familiar with each other because, they all work in the area. My high-risk doctor and my OB actually went to med school together.
Okay.
And then my endo kind of led all the blood sugar insulin stuff, because I've heard a couple episodes where one person's driving, one of those three doctors is driving the changes the insulin needs and all the changes, but for me it was my endo. So every 2 weeks we would connect through the messenger app. She would review my log, or she would review my CGM, all my pump data, everything, and then send me a message back with adjustments. And then once a month I would meet with her. So I was making adjustments at least every 2 weeks. And then anytime I would see a pattern change for 2 days instead of 3 or more, I would make adjustments accordingly.
Okay.
So it just kept going up.
How are you guys connecting? Was it texting? Were you doing a portal? How does the phone?
Messaging through the portal.
Mhm.
And then once a month, I think at first I was going in person and then we were doing virtual appointments where she would again review my data and we would talk in person.
Okay.
So I was just in very close contact with her. And as soon as anything went funky, I would just reach out and immediately get a response. I remember I went into work. I was 36. I was, I think, right at 36 weeks. Went into work and my blood sugar just kept crashing. And I was like, I don't think this is a good thing. Now, Jenny's book, she talks about it. Must have missed that part. But at 36 weeks, your insulin needs kind of plateau or even dip. So I reached out to my endocrinologist and they called me right back. And she was like, yep, this is typical. Just, I think I decreased my basal 10%. Everything leveled out. It was fine. So I was like, man, I didn't take Jenny's book to work today. Should have.
Why
Could have
why
figured
does
this
that
out for
happen?
myself.
Why does that happen at 36 weeks? Do you know?
I think it's, I mean, Jenny would know. But it's something about like everything kind of just settles out. Like I don't think it's, and it all kind of goes back to the placenta. I think a lot of that insulin resistance is from the placenta. But I think everything just kind of like starts to settle out, level out, and your needs sometimes almost dip. I don't know. But at first I was like worried that something was wrong. I was like, why is this dropping?
Mm-hmm.
But once I found out that it was typical, expected, and the change was made and everything leveled out, then that was okay. And my baby was moving fine too, so I was monitoring that too.
Well, ironically, because eventually AI will stop us from needing to make babies, but it seems to know about this. So let's check into it for a second. Why insulin needs drop around 36 weeks. A shift can occur where insulin requirements plateau or even drop. The main reasons would be one, placental changes as the placenta begins to age or mature towards the end of pregnancy. Production of those insulin resisting driving hormones may decline. Less placental hormone equals less insulin resistance equals lower insulin needs. Fetal glucose use. The baby is growing rapidly and using more glucose directly from the mother's circulation. That extra uptake by the fetus can reduce maternal blood sugar levels, again, lowering insulin demands. And this one's listed as a clinical concern, early placental insufficiency. In some cases, a sudden and sharp drop in insulin needs can signal placental insufficiency, which is the placenta not functioning well. That's why obstetrics teams usually monitor closely if insulin requirements fall rapidly. It can be an early red flag. Practical takeaways are a modest reduction in insulin around 36 weeks is common. Normal physiological change and a dramatic drop should always be reported to the care team. There you go.
There we go.
Nice. And yeah, and then one day, like we'll grow babies in labs and AI will take care of all of it for us and none of this will be important when it takes over
Man.
and then turns us into the machines that run the world.
But who's going to name the babies?
Well, if I can gain control, they'll all be named Scott.
Yeah.
If my cult, here's the plan. I start a cult based around people taking care of their diabetes well. Then eventually I get some coders in there. We develop our own AI. And one day can you imagine? By the way, if any of you are worried about AI, I understand. And if any of you are excited about it, I understand too. I'm very much hopeful that we fall somewhere in the middle where we're not slaves to computers, but yet it's helping us in different ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to somebody talk about medical research the other day. And they said in their lab where they're researching, a thing, that most of the people in that lab prior to AI would be people who were compiling data and, just making models so that they could try to hopefully figure something out. Then they'd end up calling, somebody else that they knew and said, hey, have you ever seen this? Like it was a very like that kind of process. And now those people, well, here's the downside of it. Those people don't have a job in the lab anymore, but the AI is doing the compilation. And then, how did he put it? He said, and then it considers things that would take me years of sitting there banging my head against a desk to see the connections between it, sees the connections in like a couple of hours, and made it sound very hopeful. And so I was like, awesome. So hopefully that's the way I hope it goes. Nevertheless.
Yeah.
Although in my mind, I just see that the robot smashing the skulls at the beginning of the Terminator movie. So
I'm thinking of Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can use it for good or for evil. So
Yeah.
like,
And someone's going to do one and someone's going to do the other for sure. Like for every person who's out there, like, I wonder if it could help us compile data faster so that we could learn about medical advancements. There's someone else who's thinking, I wonder how I could get it to steal someone's money for me or house or something like that. Well, people, what are you going to do, Claire? That little kid you're raising over there, he could go either way. We don't even know yet.
No.
You ever think about that? You ever think about that? Like, you could be raising a bank robber or, you know, somebody who's out helping people.
I think he'll be a helper.
Yeah, I hope so. It's nice. I wonder if the people know. Like, I'd like to get the people whose kids ended up being bank robber a real thing? I'm saying something like it's 1965. But I wonder if somebody whose kid like grew up to do something like that. I wonder if you could get an honest answer from them and say, hey, when they were 5, did you think this kid's going to grow up to be a criminal? Like, did you know? You know what I mean? I'd love to know that.
Yeah.
All right, Claire, we've lost the thread.
There are probably some small signs, but
small signs. I'm like, she's like, do not bum me out about my 3-year-old. He's awesome. Stop it. No. Claire right now, she's like, oh my God, he's going to use heroin and rob banks. That's not what no. Okay. So you get that drop at 36 weeks, you make your adjustment, and then how does it proceed from there?
So listening to the podcast episodes, I was like, okay, do I want to manage my own blood sugar during labor and delivery or not? Mm-hmm. So the plan was to induce at 39 weeks, which is, you know, their recommendation. Anyone who's well controlled, we're going to induce you at 39 weeks. They didn't want to let it go on too long and risk placental failure. That was like their concern about letting me go longer than 39 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, let's go with the plan. And, you know, when I hit active labor, I was like, you know what? I'll turn over the blood sugar control to you guys, because in my mind, I was like, IV insulin's going to work faster than subcutaneous, and I don't want to be high. So I was like, okay, I'll turn it over to you guys, and, you know, one less thing for me to worry about. So that was my plan. Once we get there, I was managing my blood sugars during the early phases of labor all on my own. You know, I was wearing a Dexcom. I was in manual mode. This was before the Omnipod 5 algorithm existed. Mm-hmm. I still was on my 10% decreased basal. I think once I hit active labor, I actually had to drop it more because just all that energy expenditure of labor was bringing me low. Anyway, so I'm monitoring, managing, doing everything fine. And my OB walks in and she's like, are you sure you want to pass control over to us?
Your OB's like, you're doing a great job here. Like
she did. She empowered me. She's like, look, you've been doing a great job so far. Like, why don't you just keep doing it yourself? And, you know, you can always change your mind. You have IV access. We can switch you over. No big. And I was like, you really? Like, you think I can do it? Well, yeah, you're right. Like, I've been doing all of this myself here, and it's going really well. I mean, my blood sugars are great between like 70 and 100. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what's my blood sugar now? 70. I was like, well, what would you do now? Like, what's your protocol? And they're like, well, your blood sugar's only 70, so we wouldn't give you any insulin. I was like, wait a second. You're not going to give me any insulin? I'm not going to stay at 70. I was like, yep, okay, I got it. You guys, you do your job, I'll do mine. We're cool. Got it.
Nice. And worked out well?
It worked out really well. There was only one minor problem, but this is a great story. So what happened?
Let's talk about the Tandem Mobi insulin pump from today's sponsor, Tandem Diabetes Care. Their newest algorithm, Control-IQ Plus technology, and the new Tandem Mobi pump offer you unique opportunities to have better control. It's the only system with auto bolus that helps with missed meals and preventing hyperglycemia. The only system with a dedicated sleep setting, and the only system with off or on body wear options. Tandem Mobi gives you more discretion, freedom, and options for how to manage your diabetes. This is their best algorithm ever, and they'd like you to check it out at tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox. When you get to my link, you're going to see integrations with Dexcom sensors and a ton of other information that's going to help you learn about Tandem's tiny pump that's big on control. tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox. The Tandem Mobi system is available for people ages 2 and up who want an automated delivery system to help them sleep better, wake up in range, and address high blood sugars with auto bolus. When you think of a CGM and all the good that it brings in your life, is the first thing you think about, I love that I have to change it all the time? I love the warm-up period every time I have to change it. I love that when I bump into a door frame, sometimes it gets ripped off. I love that the adhesive kind of gets mushy sometimes when I sweat and falls off. No, these are not the things that you love about a CGM. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense 365, the only CGM that you only have to put on once a year, and the only CGM that won't give you any of those problems. The Eversense 365 is the only one-year CGM designed to minimize device frustration. It has exceptional accuracy for 1 year with almost no false alarms from compression lows while you're sleeping. You can manage your diabetes instead of your CGM with the Eversense 365. Learn more and get started today at eversensecgm.com/juicebox. 1 year, one CGM.
Eventually, my labor stalled, and my doctor was like, okay, I'm going to give you an hour, but if I come back in an hour and things are not ready to go, I would highly recommend a C-section, because I think if we just keep delaying it, we're delaying the inevitable. I was like, okay, got an hour. So in that hour, trying to relax, keep it together, look at my husband. I'm like, okay, you are going to have to change my insulin pump settings for me when the time comes, because I had my, all my pre-pregnancy settings ready to go on my Omnipod and my PDM. I was like, all right, so take this in to the OR in your pocket. And, once the baby comes, we're all excited. We're all happy. Once the placenta's out. So we're going to assume that happens
Oh, where'd you go?
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Speaking of, what is it? AI. Oh. There goes my Amazon Alexa. Okay. So my doctor says that, I'm going to come back in an hour. You're probably going to need a C-section. If we keep delaying it, an hour at a time, keep checking it every hour. She's like, I think we're just delaying the inevitable. So
you should have had your husband pinch your nose and blow into your mouth.
I was trying anything. Mentally, I was like, try and relax, baby, move, let's go. But to me, a C-section wasn't the end of the world. My labor and delivery plan was, I want the epidural and I don't want my kid to get stuck on the way out. Mm-hmm. So as long as we accomplish those goals, we're good. So I had the epidural on board, kind of mentally preparing, okay, this might end in a C-section, but I had all my pre-pregnancy settings and everything, ready to go on my Omnipod. I just knew I had to switch it, and I knew I had to switch it once the placenta was out, since that was the main driver of all the insulin resistance. So, so I turned to my husband, I'm like, okay, here's my PDM. Let me talk you through how to change it. Okay, you ready? You're good? All right, we're all good. So I go in the OR first, and then he comes in right after me. I'm like, you got the PDM? He's like, yep, cool. I actually feel terrible by this point. It's just been a long time, a lot of drugs. I'm exhausted, and I'm laying on the OR table, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw up. I'm laying on my back. I can't throw up right now. This is the best moment of my life, but I feel like I'm gonna throw up. So I was a mess. But my husband's there. He had the PDM, so we're good to go. And then, they're like, he's coming. Baby comes out. He's crying. He looks great. I can see him. My husband goes over to him, and then I'm like, hubby, you got to change that. You got to change the settings. And I can barely talk because I feel like if I open my mouth, I'm just going to throw up everywhere.
Vomit, yeah.
And he gets, if anybody's familiar with Omnipod 5 in manual mode, I had a temp basal running. And when you have a temp basal running, you get an error message when you try and change your profile settings. Mm-hmm. So here's my husband getting this error message. He's never seen it before. I haven't seen it in a long time. And when we practiced him switching it over, he didn't actually hit go. So neither of us anticipated this error message coming up. And I can't talk because I'm going to throw up if I open my mouth. So I just grab my PDM from him with my left hand. I'm right-handed. So with my non-dominant hand, I change my insulin pump settings on the OR table.
I would love to clip out this 5 minutes and make 18 to 23-year-old girls listen to it to hear you go, it was the best moment of my life, because they're probably like, oh my God, they'd be like, what is happening to this woman?
Yeah.
How is she describing this as the best moment of her life? Oh my God. Did he think you were mad at him?
No, he was
No?
just like, he had this panic look, like, I don't know what to do. And I literally was afraid if I opened my mouth to say anything, it
Vomit
would
was
just be
coming with it.
vomit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I probably shouldn't throw up when I'm flat on my back. And I probably shouldn't move because I'm on an OR table.
Also don't want to dirty the memory. You know what I mean?
But anyway, so that was probably the second coolest moment of my entire life. I was like, that was pretty badass. Like I just grabbed it, swiped it, and did it. No, I just think he was like, oh my gosh, I had one job. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what is this error message?
Yeah.
Just like moment of panic. And there
If
was
I'm
like,
you, if and I can lend some perspective as a person who's been married longer than you, never mention it. It'll loom large for him. And then one day when you see his confidence come back and you realize he's forgotten about it, that's when you bring it up.
that time.
Yeah. You have plenty of time to use this as psychological manipulation is what I'm saying, if that's what your goal is.
Nah.
No. Look how nice you are.
Nah.
People are like, God, this guy's wife must be terrible. She's not. She's just Catholic and, you know.
It was just so funny because in that moment, it was like we had just, our son's born. He's happy. He's healthy. Well, he was healthy.
Yeah, you don't know if he was happy or not.
Yeah, we don't know. He was probably like, what the heck? It's cold out here. Put me back.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it was just like this moment of like sheer panic on his part. What's going on? / I was like, I don't know what else to do. Let me do it myself. And then I was like, wait, I just changed my insulin pump settings while I'm lying on an OR table. I was like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It felt empowering, huh?
Oh, yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, I can do anything.
I can do anything. But then how long was it until you're like, I don't want to do anything. I'm going to stop. Because there's a moment where you're like, I'm exhausted. There's a lot going on here. Where does your A1C and your goals change to? How long do they stay there before you say to yourself, you know what, screw this. I can be that healthy like forever if I want to be.
Yeah, probably. Gosh, there's just so much going on and so many changes occurring like day to day, week to week. There was probably once I got back more in like a rhythm and a routine, probably like back to work, and not like right back to work because that was a rough reentry. But maybe when my son was about like 6 months old, I was like, okay, I feel like we've got a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of routine. My blood sugars are a little bit more understandable. They're not quite so crazy. That I was like, okay, like I think I can do this. And then Omnipod 5 had come out, and I liked the idea of having that kind of like that assistant to your blood sugar, right? You've got, so a lot of adjustments going around in the background that you don't have to like mentally think about.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that sounds great. Like if I could get better control with a little more automation, that sounds perfect.
Hey, I want to let people know I think you did misspeak at one point telling the labor story where you said Omnipod 5, but you were not using Omnipod 5 during the delivery, right? I have always disliked ordering diabetes supplies. I'm guessing you have as well. It hasn't been a problem for us for the last few years, though, because we began using US Med. You can too. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514 to get your free benefits check. US Med has served over 1 million people living with diabetes since 1996. They carry everything you need from CGMs to insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies and more. I'm talking about all the good ones, all your favorites. Libre 3, Dexcom G7, and pumps like Omnipod 5, Omnipod DASH, Tandem, and most recently, the iLet pump from Beta Bionics. The stuff you're looking for, they have it at US Med. 888-721-1514 or go to usmed.com/juicebox to get started now. Use my link to support the podcast. That's usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514.
Correct.
Right.
I might have misspoke.
Yeah, that's all. I just want to make sure so it doesn't confuse people. That's all.
Yeah. I was on Omnipod, but in the plain old regular.
Using a dash and manual.
Yeah. Manual.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So then I did that for a little while, and I still wasn't quite getting the results that I wanted. My A1C has been really good and fine. I've been in the sixes ever since my son was born. But I think it's this very interesting place I'm in now where like I kind of come up for air. My son's a little older, come up for air. I'm like kind of like, okay, I think I can handle a little bit more control. I can handle a change. I can handle like a little bit more interaction
Mm-hmm.
with my diabetes because I want better control. And even though my A1C is coming out good, fine, passing on, medical standards, I still see these big fluctuations or stubborn highs. And I'm like getting really frustrated with that. Cause I'm like, I know I can do better. I know I feel better. I felt so good when I was pregnant, but I also put in so much effort. I'm like, can I kind of find something in between here?
Yeah.
So all the AID systems are, coming out and, everybody's upgrading and leveling up and this and that. So I was like, okay, like, let me try. I had Omnipod and I really didn't want a tube because I'd never had a tube. So I was like, all right, I'm sticking with Omnipod or maybe looping, but just the idea of looping was just so overwhelming. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't build anything. I can like barely get my Apple products to work. So, I met with Jenny through IDS. I did a one-time consultation and met with Jenny, and I was like, kind of, this Omnipod 5 algorithm isn't giving me what I want. I don't have enough options in there. It's doing so many things automatically, which is great, but it's like not quite enough. Like, what else can I do? So she gave me some like hacks for the Omnipod 5, just some suggestions. And she was like, or you could try another algorithm. So she told me, and she mentioned that Omnipod and loop. When you loop, you can use the Omnipod, so you're still tubeless. But I was like, Jenny, I can't build loop. Like, no. So she told me there's a company that will build it for you, and you pay them a monthly fee. And I think you actually interviewed one of the guys who's working there now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think there's a couple, but yeah, there's a couple. So you got somebody to set it up for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Now I'm on the loop algorithm using Omnipod DASH and the loop algorithm that was built for me. And it's definitely giving me more options, which now I can, my brain can function and I'm using more options and features. Whereas, some days I was like, no, you just do it all for me.
Mm-hmm.
Algorithm, you do it all for me. I can't mentally deal with this right now. But now I'm in a headspace where I'm like, okay, I can mentally deal with it. I want more options. I want more control to see the results and to feel better, but without so much of the effort that I was putting in back in the day. So I really like the algorithm. I think it's helping me more. I think I could definitely do more with it if I sat down. I probably need to go back through the pro tip series. Probably need to learn more about the loop algorithm, excuse me. And I can definitely do more with it. But that's where I'm at now. And I definitely feel like I'm putting in less effort and getting better control, which is just such a hard balance to strike. And then I think in the future, I'll be able to customize it more, learn about it more, customize it more, and have it serve me even better.
Yeah. And you went with loop, not with trio?
I did. I think that just came out because I switched to loop about a year ago.
I see. So just as you were doing it, it felt a little newer. Arden's really, I think, having a lot of success with trio, by the way.
Cool.
Yeah, now that you're a professional, you could just jump back and forth.
I know. Try them all.
Plenty of people have both of those algorithms on their phone.
Wow.
Yeah, and they'll just like start a pod on one or start a pod on the other one. Yeah. You think you'd be that kind of person?
I don't know.
I just like how you just went, That was great.
Good.
Maybe.
But I do love the Omnipod's tubeless, and the other appeal when I was like hesitant to switch from MDI to pumping. Just, change is hard, right? And I was like, I don't know. But the appeal was instead of purchasing the pump, and having to wait 4 years for insurance to pay for another one or whatever.
Gives you more flexibility.
There's a way with the pods that you can really kind of do it month to month. I think because instead of being DME, it's considered a pharmacy, something or other. Anyway, so I was like, that's appealing too, because you're not like locked in, committed for 4 years to a pump. I definitely didn't want to do that.
Well, awesome. Have you shared everything with me that you were hoping to share today?
I think so.
Go over in your head. Take your time.
I think so. I'd say the only other tidbits, I know you have interviewed a ton of other people with type 1 with interesting stories of diagnosis or crazy things that happened, or, and obviously pregnancy. The only other thing I can offer as just something a little different is when I was pregnant, I was about 11 weeks pregnant, and we had a little bit of a scare where we thought we were having a miscarriage. We thought we were losing our
Oh,
son.
jeez.
Um, so that was a very, very rough couple of days. But what was interesting was looking at that CGM. My CGM, my blood sugar numbers, my insulin needs were all behaving like I was still pregnant. So I was oscillating back and forth between being absolutely devastated and still hopeful because those CGM numbers. And
Well,
then looking back on it, once we found out that, I went to the doctor, got checked out, everything's okay. But it was just so cool to look back on it and realize that because I had type 1, I was wearing a CGM. And because I was looking at my CGM was showing me, like, you're still pregnant, baby's okay. And that was just like very cool to look back on because it's, again, like a very unique experience.
yeah. What was happening that made you think that the pregnancy was not viable?
Yeah, I started bleeding. It was like 10 or 11 weeks. I went to the bathroom and I was like, oh,
Right.
I'm bleeding.
And then what do they say to you? Like, what's the steps to take after that? Rest and let's
Yeah.
see if it stops.
Yep. Yep. So, and it was a Friday. It
It's
was a
always a
Friday too.
fucking Friday, Claire.
hmm Friday. It was Friday. It was 6 p.m. And I was like, do I go to the emergency department? What do I do? Well, I called the OB on call,
Mhm.
who was great. He was like, he's like, okay, it might be something or it might be nothing. It's nothing you did. You didn't do anything wrong. It's nothing you did. It's nothing you ate. It wasn't the green Jello. He was just like, trying to like calm me down. But I still remember that day. It wasn't the green Jello. I was like, okay, I didn't eat green Jello, but just trying to like relax me, calm me down. He's like, look, what you're going to do is just rest this weekend, see us first thing Monday morning, and we'll check and we'll see what's happening. And so I was like, okay, don't go to the emergency department. Also, whatever they told me, that's not their area of expertise. So I'm like, I could just go to the emergency department, but also I was like, all right, trust my OB. If they say just wait, we'll wait, which
Okay.
was not a fun wait.
Yeah.
But
Jeez. I bet. Would you just sit in the house, like staring at each other?
no, we thought about, yeah, canceling all plans and like just holding up in the house. But I was like, okay, we're gonna lose our minds. We were gonna go to an outdoor concert, and we still went. I just sat the whole time instead of standing.
Yeah. It
'Cause I was
wasn't
just
in.
told to
It
rest.
wasn't in Australia, was it?
Oh gosh, no, it was only like a 2 hour drive away. But it was like out in the country, outside,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
field, music. And I was like, okay, well, we'll just bring like camping chairs to sit on because I was told like don't run, try and sit, rest, don't lift anything heavy, this stuff like that.
Yeah. Don't bounce the kid around in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't make it any worse.
Stop jostling the baby.
Like, what did you do? Um, but yeah, sometimes it just happens. And so I went to the doctor Monday, and they're like, oh yeah, sometimes this just happens. But they're like, baby's fine, baby's fine. Sometimes this stuff happens. Just relatively rest. And then eventually everything was fine.
It was just okay. And there's no answer after that. There's no like great pronouncement about what happened or didn't happen. Just like, oh, that's over. Cool.
It's actually, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. It's called a subchorionic bleed. And it's just the blood fills somewhere in the uterus. I forget. I think it's between the uterus or placenta or something. But it's just this little pocket of blood. And usually, depending on the size and the severity and symptoms, sometimes bad things can happen. It puts you at increased risk for other things. But in my case, it was small and it resolved on its own. It was fine. But that's what I was seeing. And then, as I think any woman would assume, you're pregnant, there's blood, like that's it.
It's over. Yeah.
But I didn't know that this existed. And it actually happened to a friend of mine who was pregnant at the same time. It happened to her a couple weeks later. And we kind of circled back on it later, comparing notes. I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened to you too. So I was like, why doesn't anybody talk about this? Probably because they don't want you to assume one thing or another. They don't want you to assume that everything's okay or assume everything's the end of the world, terrible.
Yeah.
But it was just very interesting, like later on, to compare our experiences. And I think she probably didn't wait a whole weekend like I did to get checked out by the doctor. But that weekend, I had that CGM information, and my insulin needs were the same. And I was like, huh. I was like, I think I'm still pregnant.
That's something.
So it was just interesting to have that. It was kind of a comfort, but I didn't know,
Yeah.
it was just different.
2 questions. If that would have been a Wednesday and not a Friday, do you think they would have had you right in? You would have been examined. Do you think that exam would have alleviated all your concern right then and there? Or not necessarily?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It probably would have given me answers sooner, but it probably would have been the same result. Like, hey, hang out, wait, relax. Yeah, I don't know.
What was the bleed called again?
I think it's called a subchorionic bleed. You can probably look it up on AI. Find out how to spell it and pronounce it. But it was just just interesting to go through that as a type 1 with the CGM information while I was waiting to find out if everything was okay or not. Because all of my technology, my insulin needs, my blood sugar needs were all showing that I was still pregnant. So I was like pretty hopeful that I was still pregnant. But I didn't know.
Yeah. But did you cling to that a little bit?
Yeah. I was like holding out hope. So I was definitely oscillating between like, oh my gosh, we're losing this kid. We already know it's a boy and all of that. But I kept clinging on to that little bit of hope because I had that CGM and
you could see your blood sugar was still being screwed with by a pregnancy, and you thought, oh,
yeah,
a kid must be okay in there. Look at my insulin resistance. Yeah.
Not just the CGM, but my insulin needs were the same as the day before when I knew I was pregnant.
Right.
My blood sugar wasn't crashing. I wasn't going sky high. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I think I'm still pregnant. I acted like I was still pregnant.
Well, I have here that a pelvic, let's see, like a cervical dilation, whether the cervix is soft or thin, but doesn't tell them how the baby's doing. Fetal heart rate monitoring, Doppler in the office, continuous monitors in the hospital, the main tool to assess distress in the baby. Patterns in the baby's heart rate show how well oxygenated they are. Non-stress tests measure how the baby's heart rate. Did you end up doing all this when the week finally came around?
I think they just did a quick ultrasound. I was like,
that's the next thing. Ultrasound, NST to check movement, breathing, motions, muscle tone, and amniotic fluid. Contraction, stress test, ultrasound, Doppler. Okay. All right. So,
so it was pretty early. I was pretty early. It was 11 weeks. And, I went into the doctor's office and they were like, okay, let's take a look.
Yeah.
Just ultrasound, take a look. And she was like, oh, that's what it is. I see the bleed there. And she spent a minute, like, we listened to his heart rate. She's like, oh, baby's fine. That's his
all
heart
good.
rate.
Yeah. Now, does that experience early on in the pregnancy, are you able to give it away, or does it stick to you the entire time the baby's in there? Like, do you think about it?
It did for a while. And then because I was getting so many ultrasounds and that was on my record, they checked like, oh, it's gone. It's resolved. It's a non-issue. Now, I think, I didn't know as much about that. I already knew everything was high risk for everything, being type 1 and, mid 30s. And so I was more worried about that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, just another thing. But I was just more worried about all the other risks, more being associated with type 1 and not being 25.
Awesome. So you would tell people who have type 1 and are thinking of getting pregnant, it's very doable, I assume?
Yeah, I used to think it was impossible. I was like, there is absolutely no way. These goals are insane. There's no way I can do that. But I did it. So I'm like, okay, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I would do some research, some planning first. And it's hard to go from 0 to 60. So I'm really glad I took like a year to kind of hone it in, ramp it in, take the information in, do some research, listen to other people's experiences. But it is totally doable. And I think we have a little bit of an advantage because we're all in better touch with all of the things: sleep, exercise, nutrition. We're so much in better touch with our bodies and the way we feel
in the world.
So much more in tune, than somebody without type 1 or a chronic health condition that needs constant monitoring.
Yeah.
So I think we're already at a bit of an advantage there. So like if anything funky does happen, I feel like we kind of know our bodies best, can trust our gut. really well. We've got this, I feel like that
It's
insulin
awesome.
needs and CGM is like an extra vital sign when they're doing all this monitoring and testing. So
Yeah. That's really awesome. Well, I'm very happy that you took the time to share this with me. Thank you very much. I want you to know that when you earlier said like you sounded like embarrassed about how much you like college football, it made me find you on Facebook. And
yeah,
you might have a problem. I just want to say
I might have a problem. um, I may or may not be wearing football attire right now. This is like my second favorite day of the year. It's, big kickoff tomorrow. It's beginning of the college football season. So,
but you don't care about pro football.
I follow the football players I like in college. I follow them to the pros, but then they change teams like 20 times and I get very confused.
Yeah. I like it when you're just forced to play for this one team. It's better. It's awesome.
Can you just stay in one place so that I can buy the jersey and it's still valid a few years from now?
Now, is there an irony here where like, we finally find a girl who loves football, but the guy you married doesn't care about it? Or do you guys have that in common?
He knows what he married into.
But he doesn't love it like you do.
He will get into it for me. He enjoys it, but he doesn't seek it out in the same way. Like
he doesn't have an illness like you.
Exactly. It's like I will seek it out. I will turn it on. I'm ready to go. And he's like, wait, what time is it? What channel is it on? Okay, it's on. Yeah, let's watch.
That's fine.
But funny story about us is he actually proposed to me on the 50-yard line of my college football field, which is not easy to get on.
Did you do it legally?
Yes. Yeah.
Very nice.
We had an employee escort us out there.
What does he tell you you're doing? Because do you know you're being proposed to?
No, I didn't know. It was definitely a little odd. He was like, you've never taken a tour of the stadium? I was like, no. I was like, I have been on the field one time.
Right.
But no, I wouldn't take a tour. Never been on a tour. I've been to many games there. Why do I need a tour? He's like, oh, well, I'm going to take you on a tour. I was like, okay. We pull up and this employee, he shows up and he's like, oh, are you guys here for the tour? So the employee was totally in on it.
The tour? At what point were you like, I am not having sex with you on this football field, you creep? Is that where this is leading to?
No.
Okay.
Wait. My husband and I pulled up and there were these two employees and they're like, are you guys here for the tour? And we were like, I guess so. And my husband's like, oh, yeah, we're here for the tour. And then, and at first it seemed like a legit tour. Like, here's the locker rooms, here's that, here's this. And then we get to the field and here I am being like the nerd that I am. I'm like, oh, how often do you have to paint the field before a game? Well, we paint it like twice a week, but crazy lady, like, stop asking me questions. I'm like,
it's not really a tour.
Boyfriend.
And I don't know.
Boyfriend.
I don't know a lot about this stadium.
I mean, I think they did. So they were kind of trying to answer my question, but also facilitate getting me to center, like, to the 50-yard line, like the center of the field. And they're like, why don't you go just, walk out there, see what it looks like from the center. And that's where my husband proposed. And the employees got photos of the whole thing. It was great. And afterwards, I was like, okay, that was amazing. But I was like, you didn't have to go to, I would have said yes anywhere. You didn't have to do that. And he was like, no, but it was cool, right? I was like, oh, that was very cool.
Yeah.
The pictures are great.
Set the bar too high. He's gonna be chasing that dragon the rest of his life now.
I know. Mm-hmm. I know. And then like any mutual friends were just like, oh, dude, come on. Like,
yeah.
You did that. What am I going to have to do?
Yeah. I looked at my wife in the bedroom we were living in and I said, this would probably be easier if we got married. And she's like, what? I'm like, well, we could afford the car insurance. And my wife and I got married for car insurance. Like, I'm not kidding. We were dating for a while, living together because of a bad circumstance in her family. And she got a great job, but we couldn't afford to, like you couldn't afford anything. So we figured out a way to lease her a car because it was very inexpensive back then to get started, right? But we couldn't figure out how to, like, she couldn't afford the insurance. But if we were married, the insurance would have been much cheaper. So we planned a wedding and got married in a number of weeks. Used the money that people gave us as gifts, which, if I'm remembering correctly, did not equal more than about $750. to put a down payment on a leased car, and then we could afford the insurance because she was now on my insurance policy.
Wow.
Not as sexy as your story. But like that's, now keep in mind, that seems like a terrible way to start a marriage and a life. And we've almost been married for 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows how it works and how it doesn't.
Thank you, car insurance. Right?
Thank you. Hey, yeah.
Car insurance premium.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard about health insurance, but not car insurance. So
she had to get, it was a great job. Like she couldn't not take the job, but it was too far away. There was no other way to get there. She needed a car. It needed to be dedicated to her. We didn't have anybody that could help us with that. And so those are the steps we took. So if you're sometimes wondering, like, how did Scott figure out diabetes without having any knowledge about it? That's how Scott figured out to get car insurance when he was broke and, like 20 some years old.
Yeah. There's a will, there's a way.
I'm just a practical person. That's all. All right. Claire, you were great. I'm going to take a little breaky, and then I'm actually recording with your friend Jenny in 30 minutes. So,
awesome.
I'm going to go rest my voice and then come back and do it again.
Yeah, good.
You were terrific, really. I really genuinely appreciate it.
Oh, this was really fun. It was really fun to be a part of something that I've been listening to for so long. It's influenced me positively for so long. So it's really cool. I've been telling a lot of people, I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what I'm doing? I'm so excited. Oh. And it's really cool to talk to you in person too. And I just want to thank you for all of this hard work. So many episodes. I'll tell people, like, this is, the number one diabetes podcast. It's this many episodes, and they're just floored. They're like, oh my gosh, I know.
I appreciate that very much.
So much time, energy, and effort. And
I would certainly not, I am not complaining, and I certainly would not complain. But if you were here and watched me every day, you would be like, I think maybe Scott should go outside a little more often. Or, like, I'm worried that he's not like living a life just making this podcast. But I just see it as it's a moment in time. It's not going to be here forever. And, the more conversations, the more ideas, the more people get stretched a little bit and come up with new ideas and come back on and have time to share. I think it's just important, and I think it's a time in my life where I'm dedicating more time to a job than I probably should be, for me personally. But I think that hopefully, big picture, it's going to be something like when I leave it, when I put it down at the end and I go, here it is, you guys can do whatever you want with it. I think it might keep helping people. So yeah. That's my goal, certainly. And I appreciate you speaking so nicely about it. Thank you.
Yeah. And it'll keep helping people, even if you were to stop tomorrow, because it's all out there just sitting and waiting on the internet.
Yeah. I can't stop that now, though. Like, I keep seeing connections to other things. Like I interviewed a guy the other day, and at the end of talking about, this really amazing conversation about how the podcast helped him get his daughter on her feet in just a few years before she was on her way to college. And then she had this experience like right away at college, and she handled it really well. And he related that all back to the podcast. And we're kind of done talking, 45 minutes, an hour later. And he just sort of pops up and he's like, oh, also, I listened to your weight loss series and changed my life. And I was like, oh, and he's like, I've lost 36 pounds in the last 6 months. And talked about all the good things that had happened for him personally. And I was like, my gosh, like there are days, Claire, like I just record this stuff. I just assume like no one's listening to it. Like you really you'd have to be a maniac to just think. I'd be insane if I actually believed that the number of people listening to this were the number of people listening to it. Like I know functionally that's how many people are listening, but when you sit down and talk, you can't think I'm about to speak and X number of people are going to hear the words. Like it's just not a way to think about it. So when he comes around and he's like, this helped me, I spend like a half an hour after done recording thinking like, wow, like I decided to do a thing and listen to what happened for him. Listen to what happened for his daughter. Listen, like it's awesome. Like I want to do more of that. And then you start seeing connections with it and you're like, we got to keep talking about this. Like I'll tell you right now, I was out ahead of talking about injectable GLPs for type 1s. And when I started talking about it, I took a lot of shit from people about it. And I've been out ahead on a couple of things, but I think I'm only there because you guys are all coming and like having these conversations and I'm seeing like through lines. And I'm like, no, that really does feel like something that's positive right here. Something we should pay more attention to. We have to keep talking about that so it can grow. I think that one of the saddest things about content in general is that it's fleeting. Like most content creators that you listen to, they burn out pretty quickly, or the algorithm gets tired of them, or whatever happens. And before they can really build a compendium, they're here and gone. And because there's no financial incentive to keep going, they just stop. And so I think that's part of why the podcast grows and becomes more and more valuable, is because we're able to put this much effort into it for such a long time. That's a lot of like high-minded talking about me making a podcast, but that's sort of how I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I really appreciate you saying that. It's very kind of you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Hold on 1 second for me.
Okay.
Head now to tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox and check out today's sponsor, Tandem Diabetes Care. I think you're going to find exactly what you're looking for at that link, including a way to sign up and get started with the Tandem Mobi system. Arden has been getting her diabetes supplies from US Med for 3 years. You can as well. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. My thanks to US Med for sponsoring this episode and for being longtime sponsors of the Juicebox Podcast. There are links in the show notes and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to US Med and all of the sponsors. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense 365. You can experience the Eversense 365 CGM system for as low as $199 for a full year. Visit eversensecgm.com/juicebox for more details and eligibility. My Diabetes Pro Tip series is about cutting through the clutter of diabetes management to give you the straightforward, practical insights that truly make a difference. This series is all about mastering the fundamentals, whether it's the basics of insulin, dosing adjustments, or everyday management strategies that will empower you to take control. I'm joined by Jenny Smith, who is a diabetes educator with over 35 years of personal experience, and we break down complex concepts into simple, actionable tips. The Diabetes Pro Tip series runs between episode 1000 and 1025 in your podcast player, or you can listen to it at juiceboxpodcast.com by going up into the menu. If you're looking for community around type 1 diabetes, check out the Juicebox Podcast private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. But everybody is welcome. Type 1, Type 2, gestational, loved ones, it doesn't matter to me. If you're impacted by diabetes and you're looking for support, comfort, or community, check out Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate your loyalty and listenership. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.